The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are a reputable East Hull-based car specialist and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull Kia Rovers Forever members. Hello and welcome to the Robin Pod Weekly. And the Robins heading to the Challenge Cup quarter-final as the only unbeaten side in Super League right now. Joining me for this week's episode is Big Dog, Joe Appleyard.
I've been called a few. Yeah, really good. I've been called a few things this week, mainly by those over the river. But Big Dog, yeah, that's I'll take that one. Chris, great to be back on, pal. And what a week we've got in store.
Yeah, I mean, we've got so much to talk about. Of course, we've got the Challenge Cup quarter final on Saturday, which for me is pretty much just another game now. You know, it used to be a big game. You know, for me, it's just a bit of a run of the mill fixture in it. When we get into the quarter-final stages, it's just that next step to Wembley. But before we talk about that, Joe, let's talk about Huddersfield Giants. The victory that the Robins put on Sunday, 50 points to 4. Fantastic scoreline. Let's be honest, though, Joe, it wasn't. And 𝗀𝗂𝗏𝗄𝗏 has admitted this as well. It wasn't all Rovers' own way, although scoreline obviously tells a different story.
I think that's the scary thing, isn't it, Chris? I remember saying to the lads on the way home, I think we played at about 60%. And I know Huddersfield have got injuries and they're a very poor side, even if they're fully fit and we're levels ahead of them. But the way we executed in that second half, especially, and it didn't go our own way. You know, we had to go through a bit of adversity, losing James Batchelor, which we'll talk about. Obviously, Mikey getting stepped and the way he reacted to that was phenomenal. But yeah, look, it's another really, really dominant victory without actually being amazing. And the fact that you're coming away from a trip to West Yorkshire on a Sunday afternoon and coming away 50 points to 4 better off and thinking, you know what, we've still got about 5 more gears we could probably get to. It's really exciting. And, you know, the Robins stay unbeaten. Felt like a home game. It was one of them games where you knew from the start Rovers were always going to win. And it was really enjoyable. Scored some cracking tries. And, yeah, like I put on X, I'm just running out of words for Mikey Lewis. But, look, well done to the lads. Obviously, it's another 2 points. We probably won't remember this game come the back end of the season. It was pretty one-sided, especially in them final 20 minutes. But, you know, it just shows how far we've come, because years ago going to Huddersfield was like, oh my God, we've got to go there. We're probably going to get hammered. And whereas now would be, you know, we're going to these teams and we're bullying them, aren't they? And that's what I love about this side. We're bullying teams and long may it continue.
Yeah, you pretty much just took the words from my mouth, Joe, because a trip to West Yorkshire, to Huddersfield, to the Gallop Farm, John Smith Stadium, whatever you want to call it. It used to be a daunting experience, didn't it? And it'd be almost one where you went in hope rather than expectation. And the fact we put them to the sword, I mean, is credit to the Robins. Probably tells you a lot about where they are as well now. They're not the side that. I mean, it's sad, really, isn't it? I was for various reasons. I sat in the home end, so I was close to the dugout, and for me, I genuinely feel sorry for the genuine Huddersfield fans who were investing their time and effort into supporting that club. It's a club that's just looks stagnated. But, you know, I think what is really refreshing from the Robins is how we put these sides to bed and how we, we weather the storm, but we've got that ability to then put points on the board. And it's almost like I said to somebody on at the game, like, you know what's coming, but the opposition can't stop it. And the game plan's immense right now, what 𝗀𝗂𝗏𝗄𝗏 has drilled into that side.
It's like you're in a dream and the same thing's happening, isn't it? You know, we're going to start in the ground, we're going to kick into corners, we're going to defend like our life depends on it, and then teams tire out and we just take it up. It's great, the game plan, which you don't need to change, and yeah, it's out there and everyone knows how we're going to play, and we're going to play the same way at the MKM on Saturday, but you've got to stop it. That's the really tough part. But yeah, I mean, Huddersfield, I know you was in the home, mate, but it's dying, isn't it? And you know what? It's one of them teams. I know they beat us in the semi-final a few years back in the Challenge Cup. But apart from that, you've never really there's not a rivalry with any of them teams, is there really, apart from when you play them and you look at Ken Davey, how much he's put in, and it's sad, but they're not a Super League team anymore, are they? They haven't got your Bruffs and your McGilverys anymore when Luke Robinson played. But there was, 2,500, 3,000 home fans. It's an embarrassment for the sport. And I think in a cutthroat time for rugby league, you do wonder, with them moving to Halifax, with the fans and the memberships decreasing, with the way they just bottom 4-nailed on every year, I worry for their Super League safety. I know that's for another day, and this is a Rovers podcast, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if the RFL or the IMG, whoever makes these decisions, the NRL, whatever it's going to be, that's for another day. But you look at it and think, is there any point having teams like them and Salford in it anymore? Because it's getting a bit farcical, isn't it?
Yeah, and thanks for bringing up that Challenge Cup semi-final defeat. It still wrangles with me, that one. I still can't get over what happened on that day.
That was my first game as Hull Live reporter, and it was literally, I thought, what the hell have I done?
Yeah, I still can't get over that one. That was, you know what? Look, there's lots of people older than me who probably experience tougher results, but that was a tough one. If you look at the lineup for the Robins, Morg coming in at the expense of Broadbent at fullback probably wasn't too much of a surprise. But of course, we had then the Burgess injury that nobody really knew about. Thankfully, he's back in the squad for the Derby quarter final game. But I tell you what, Morg, he fit into that side and he added a lot, didn't he, in terms of attack.
It's his goal kicking as well, isn't he? And he's got that flair, you know, the cliche, the French flair. He's got it about him. And it was good to see how him and Tyrone and Mikey linked up together. Yeah. And that's only going to get better with time. And this is me not saying he's going to walk in and be number one, because Broadbent's been fantastic. And obviously he'll be back at fullback this Saturday against Hull FC. But yeah, Morg was great and very composed. They had a few tough kicks to deal with as well. You know, it wasn't all smooth sailing. We was under the cosh at times. And, you know, it weathered the storm, especially with Lola Hayes, you know, and when he gets it in the wind. But what I did like about him was his second phase, when he's in open space. Broadbent's brilliant near the line for me. I think he's outstanding near the line and he looks so hard to tackle. But with Morg, same as Mikey, every time he gets that ball and you've got a bit of open space, you think they can score from anywhere here. So it's a really good position to be in, because you lose Joe Burgess, who's arguably one of our best players and one of our best strike players, and you still can put 50 on, and you can move a kid playing fullback to the wing, bring in a bloke who's trained a few times at fullback, and they just seamlessly fit in. So we've got really good depth, and I think obviously it's a little bit tricky at the moment because Arthur Morg's cup tied, but as the season progresses, it's going to be interesting to see who actually gets that one shirt, especially again, I know we've got on the biggest game of the season so far to deal with this week, but we've got Wigan at home next week, so it'll be interesting to see what Willie does. But no, really pleased with him, and he can kick a goal, can't he, as well, which with Reece Martin out at the moment, it's one of them commodities that you need, especially in them big games that we're coming up against in the next few weeks when it's going to be tight and we're not going to be 14-0 up all the time.
Yeah, 9 tries, 7 kicks, great return from Morg. What you would say, though, Joe, is between Morg and Broadbent, who look like the two most likely people to play at fullback, there's a distinct difference between the roles that they play. Broadbent looks more assured, sort of defensively, a bit stronger, a bit more robust. Morg, I looked at Morg and thought he was like a halfback playing at fullback, and that's probably doing him a discredit, because actually he's a very good fullback. But you could see his link-up play, the runs he made, the plays he was making. It's almost like Willie Peters might have, this is going like weeks in front of us, a decision to make in terms of what type of fullback he wants maybe in certain games.
I was going to say, it probably all comes down to the opposition, doesn't it? When you're playing on a dry track and you're playing maybe like a slower team, like a Castleford or something like that, you want to get Artemog on the pitch. But if it is one of them tough, grindy games, he's Broadbent your man, and it's a really good position to be in. But like he said, he does look like a halfback. He's been playing there because Sam Tompkins is obviously back in the number 1 shirt over in the south of France. And he can also play hooker. You know, we're probably only going to have Mickey McAlorum for one season. So it's interesting to see long-term where 値fits. Does he want to be a utility? Are we going to nail him down to a bit of an alternative position? Or is he going to fight for that one shirt with Broadbent and whoever else may come in the future? But yeah, really good. Obviously, it's a debut against the team that we hammered and played pretty rubbish. So we're not getting too carried away. But I am disappointed that I can't play this week because I love Jack Broadbent, but I just think against Hull, who rely so much on their big men before they come off after 20 minutes, to have 値in there and getting at the likes of SAS and Asiata would work a treat, but, you know, we're still not complaining. We'll have Jack Broadbent. He can do that exactly the same.
Yeah, and to be fair with Broadbent, you can see why he's probably one of Willie Peters' favourite players.
Yeah, never lets you down, mate. Never lets you down. Look, he's not a star, is he? But he is getting better, and he's one of them players that has developed since he signed for Rovers, because we've seen a few players come over, haven't we, like a 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃 and play, and then they just get binned off a year later and they come and be the next big thing. Whereas Broadbent, you can see how much he's developed and his overall game compared to when he was at Leeds and especially Castleford. You know, he looks like a different player, and he's a really, really important member of this team. People don't really see it, but I think he's a great player. And obviously, he's got one of the most popular chants in the stands at the minute as well.
He has, hasn't he, Jackie Broadbent? Let's go to, I'll tell you what, let's go to Huddersfield. They did score.
Yeah.
And that try from Flanagan, I mean, let alone the fact to give it big licks in front of the Rovers fans. We won't mention his conversion that he then went and absolutely fluffed. But that try was reminiscent of Bevan French in the grand final, wasn't it? And I suppose, is that a bit of a Rovers Achilles heel where a play from nowhere just seems to derail us? I mean, it didn't, in course of the game. The scoreline was what it was, but as soon as he scored that, I just instantly thought Bevan French grand final.
Yeah, it was a carbon copy, wasn't it? I mean, the stakes weren't as high, but it was the same player. But look, I sound like, if anyone watched The Verdict, Willie Peters was on it with Jenna Brooks and John Wilkin, and I'm going to repeat what Wilkin said. A few years ago, Mikey Lewis had probably spat his dummy out and gone for Flanagan in an ill-disciplined way, conceded penalties. What he did do was rectify it immediately, and one of the best... I'm putting it out there, one of the best individual performances I've ever seen in a Rovers shirt. I know the opposition weren't amazing, but every time, it was like playing a Rugby League Live 5 on amateur every time he got the ball after that. But maybe it is a weak spot, but it's tough, innit? Because it's the way we react, and we're always going to concede tries. Flip it on its head. George Flanagan, really good prospect, great step. Enjoyed his celebration. I love the fact we always get angry when players do that, but when Mikey does it on Saturday, we'll absolutely love it. So that's what it's bantering at the end of the day, you know. And we got our own back in the end by absolutely thrashing him. But yeah, teams are always going to target him, but he is getting better defensively. Attack is second to none, arguably the best player in the league in attack for me. Defence getting better every week, but you know, we just need to tighten up, and again, stuff like that can happen. It's just the way you respond. We couldn't do that in the grand final, unfortunately, but you know, against Huddersfield, we absolutely turned the screw and we didn't panic, and within 5 minutes we was back ahead, weren't we?
Yeah, and to be fair, look, it's early season, and Willie Peters, you know, sometimes when you listen to him on the radio, his interviews, he's a bit like, not becoming boring, but the mantra's the same. Like he keeps saying the same things, and it's about that thing of, yeah, we're good now, but we just take each game as it comes. But things like that, you know, errors at this stage of the season, I'm not saying he enjoys it, but it gives him something to work on in terms of going to that's next stage at the end of the season. No team's complete at this stage, and the fact that Mikey Lewis might come with that error, someone steps out the line, someone does this, you know, someone doesn't go with the line when they should do. That gives Willie Peters the opportunity to still drill into the side. Hey, don't fall in love with yourselves, because there's still a long, long way to go.
Oh, mate, you know for a fact they'd have gone into the sheds after full time and they'd have been buzzing. Great victory. You know, Willie would have been pissed off about the 4 compared to the 50 that we've scored. That's the way they hate conceding tries. And you could see they were fuming and couldn't wait to get back out there. Yeah, it gives them something to work on. Look, that's what I love about him. And again, I've known him since he started. I was there when he joined, and I knew straight away it was going to change the way, especially we treated defence. But it's 2 points. He's come from an NRL where you win a game and you're getting talked about being the grand finalist, and then you lose and you're absolutely fodder and it's time for the next cab off the rank. So he doesn't get carried away. If we win on Saturday, if we get to a Challenge Cup final, he will just go, we've got Huddersfield the week after, so we concentrate on that. And I truly believe, I know coaches say that, I believe Rovers are playing and believe in that. They wouldn't have got carried away when we got drawn against FC. They've shown it, haven't they? They've absolutely dismantled 3 teams in the run into that. I don't think we get emotionally attached because we know we can't. Whereas in the past, if we ever had these big games or a tough away day, we'd let it get to our heads. Whereas now, we're in other teams' heads. We're like a warmonger, aren't we? We just go and we grind it out and we win and we clap the fans. And the second we get in our cars, we go, right, we've got FC next week. Let's focus on that. It's not, we're top of the league. We're unbeaten. We're going to win the grand final. We've been there last year. We've been to the Challenge Cup final the year before. Nothing's won in March. We're doing brilliantly. The team know that, but we've got so many more gears we can get to. And that is the really exciting thing for me, Chris.
Yeah, you mentioned Mikey Lewis. I mean, congratulations to him. He's welcomed his first baby. I mean, Derby week of all the times to do it. Hopefully he's not getting any sleepless nights, but congratulations to Mikey Lewis. We talked about that defensive effort when Flanagan scored the try. You talked about how he responded. Well, he responded with 3 tries, 3 assists, 23 tackles, 11 tackle busts, 19 carries, 260 metres, 21 kicks in general play, attacking and Andy. There was a player, I think it was one game, 𝗕𝘂𝗴𝗏𝗁, I think, against Huddersfield, where he came off with, it looked like he was wearing a dinner suit. And I think, to be fair, that doesn't even go into the same bracket in terms of Michael Lewis's performance against Huddersfield on Sunday, albeit against the opposition. But he looks like a player now who is really stepping up to the fore. He looks mature. He looks like a player who could literally just come up with any magic play. Give him the ball and see what happens. And the more you give him the ball, Joe, the more something's going to happen. But I think what the side is, this is really important. The side's quite disciplined in it's not just Mikey Lewis. We've got attacking threats all over the place. Mikey Lewis is the link-up player. But then what I was really impressed with, I think Tyrone May came with 80 metres. I think he had the most carries he had this season against Huddersfield. And it's really important that we don't discount Tyrone May's influence on the side. There's a lot of Rover supporters, Joe, who look at Tyrone May and go, what does he bring to the side? But if you look at the little nuances, the little handoffs, what he does, and then to release the ball, and then they're the little bits that Tyrone May brings. Don't forget the kick as well. What I think it was for the last try. So yeah, Mike Lewis was great. Don't get me wrong, Mikey Lewis is absolutely fantastic. But our halfbacks, I think, for me, Joe, complement each other really well.
They do. Tyrone's defence, outstanding. And like you said, what I've noticed a lot, and I feel like we're not giving the tactics away because every coach will have watched Rovers a million times, but when we do that short shift near the line, he gets the ball first carrying. You think, oh my God, why is he carrying it in? Give it to a prop or 𝗂𝗏𝗡. But he hands off every time, flicks it away, and it creates overlaps. I remember he did it a few times last season. A game at FC away springs to mind when 𝗲𝗏𝗏 scored. I think it was the first try of the season. And yeah, them two are really complementing each other. And obviously there's rumours about Tyrone that we're going to speak about after we've spoke about Huddersfield overall. But yeah, they're playing brilliantly. And his defence and Mickey Mack's defence and Jared, I thought, had his best game. We're growing steadily, aren't we? But, just really, really good continuity between the team now. And I know we picked up a few injuries along the road, but our span, touch wood, seems to be looking really good and really complement each other. But yeah, Mikey Lewis, for me, I always said Dobbo was the best player I've ever seen in a Rovers shirt. Look, the kid's 22, 23. He hasn't won anything in a Rovers shirt yet, but in 25, 26 years of going, mate, he's the best I've ever seen. And it's scary because he's that young. And I think, again, we spoke about Rovers having so many more gears. I think he has. He's literally got Super League in his hands, hasn't he, at the moment? And I keep saying he's the most hated player for a reason, because everyone would love him in his side. And yeah, congratulations to him. Obviously, the dad of a baby boy now, and let's hopefully he does the generic cradle celebration in front of the South Stand a few times on Saturday, because he does love a try in the West Side, doesn't he?
Oh, he does. He does. I tell you what, Joe, let's go. You threw me that with baby celebration. I'm just remembering the Brazil one, the 94. Was it 94 World Cup? No. Yeah, when it came. Yeah, he threw me that. Anyway, let's go back to I tell you what was interesting. Ches Lytton not getting on in the first half. Mickey Mack starting playing for as long as he did. We've not seen it before this season. And it was interesting because Ches Lytton kept warming up in front of me. He was desperate to get. You could see he just ran up almost to go. I'm ready. Whether it was because the coach was telling him, whether it's 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, whether it's Willie Peters to keep warming up, but he made sure he was up and down the touchline warming up. Interesting tactics, I suppose. That's what we've got though, isn't it? When Willie Peters feels like it's a tight game, he wants to keep his best defenders out there. And we can't deny Ches Lytton isn't our best defender in terms of that hooking role. Mickey Mack was brought in to do a specific job. But it was really interesting then when Ches Lytton did come on, look where the tries came. That's when the game opened up. And it's smart tactics for me. Like Ches Lytton, for me right now, with the dynamics we've got with Mickey Mack, he's not an 80-minute player because of the game we're playing, and people need to understand that spells of when they bring him on.
And every time he's come on, Chris, whether it be for 60 minutes, 20 minutes, or 40 minutes like it was, he's on fire. I know I've took the song there, haven't I? But
was you singing it?
Of course I was. Yeah. Keep telling everyone he's my mate and that, don't I? Yeah, no, look, when he's coming on, he's ripping teams apart, and he's probably I think it was Wilkin or someone the other day said he's the best hooker in the league at the moment. And I totally agree with him. Like I said, he's not playing massive minutes, but he's so effective when he comes on. It's that speed in and around the ruck. And look, 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃 puts the big shots on. His distribution's not amazing, and we are a bit slower without Ches on, but what we are is we're a tough set of bloody buggers, aren't we, in the middle of the field? And he can put on shots. He tires the defenders out. He's nitty and gritty in the ruck. He can cause fatigue to them big men. And again, that'll probably be the plan on Saturday. You've got to cope with the pack in rugby league, especially in the modern game. And then when they're tired and the bench comes on and it's a little bit more free-flowing, we can just bring a Ches on. We can bring a Whitbread on, who I thought was probably played his best game he's ever had in a Rover shirt. He was great as well. Honourable mention there. But yeah, hooking partnerships getting there. And again, we're just praising him all the time. There's no really any negatives at the moment, barring obviously Batchelor's injury and Reece Martin being out. And But mate, yeah, apart from that, I can't say much more on Ches and Mickey Mack. They're complementing each other, and Willie just knows when to bring him off, bring Mickey Mack off, bring Jared off, all that. You would have seen it more than us. He was fuming, wasn't he, Jared, when he got brought off for his last few minutes?
Well, do you know what? When it happened, I saw him, because it's really funny. If you watch Hargreaves, he don't warm up on the touchline.
No.
He follows the line.
He's a coach.
Yeah, so he's following the line of the player. So he's following the attack and defence. Other players running up, doing high knees, doing all the things to warm up. Hargreaves he's following the game. It was really interesting to watch him, because he didn't leave the line as he was. He literally didn't sit on the bench. And then at the end, when he got spelled to come back on, he came on and then he got took off. Took a few minutes later, and he was absolutely stinking. He was furious. He was arguing with 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. Kenny Dowell was arms out, going like,
"It's not me."
No, yeah, he was absolutely fuming, and
it was a mistake, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a mistake, and he admitted it, didn't he? I think he said it. He don't know whether it was Willie Peters. I think ultimately, it was Kenny Dowell with a miscommunication.
Yeah, I think he said keep him on, but he's a Jared and just brought him off.
Yeah. So look, it was a mistake, and luckily, in a game of, by the result, it didn't really matter. To me, shows you the desire of Warren Hargreaves to be on that pitch, making a difference. And look, some people think he's loving it. Outsiders will look at what he does on the pitch, But actually, do you know what? He's just fitted into this side seamlessly. And Woody Peters keeps going about what he does off the pitch. To be fair, mate, I think he's done a great job on the pitch. I think he's a level-headed, steady, really impactful player in terms of his defence. You know what you're going to get from him. And his heart's there. His desire's there. And for all them people who said he was going to be a penalty machine, I'm still waiting to... I don't think he's give more than one penalty. I'm trying to think about across all the games.
I think he's given away one, hasn't he? But that's what I was just going to say to you before, obviously, we move on. But that's what's making me laugh. All opposition fans were going, we can't wait to see him get banned. He's going to be real aggressive. He doesn't know how to play in Super League. He's playing the Super League way now, and he's shit. So, he's doing great, mate. And again, we'll speak about it afterwards. You know, you've caught up with Steve Till and that, but I'm really looking forward to seeing him play in the derby.
Just before we move on, Steve's coming up next with Robins Revisited. What I thought was really important was Davis, Hickle, Gildart, Broadbent, Morg, all making over 100 metres each in terms of their back play. I mean, that's magnificent effort from them. Shows you as well how important having fit centres, wingers, full-backs who can go, run the line. But what was most important for me is when you look at the try scorers, Davis, Gildart, Morg, not only are they able to back up them defensive efforts in terms of running the ball out of back play, they're then able to then see the game out by scoring some of these tries, being present of mind, being fit enough to be able to go. And I tell you what, our centres, wingers, fullback, they are so important to this whole Kingston Rovers side. And the fact that they all made 100 metres each just shows to me that they're, you know, it's not a forwards game. It is a full team effort, but they do lay a platform as well for us.
100%, mate. You know, we spoke about, didn't we, when Ryan Hall left last year, where the meat is going to come from. For me, Tom Davis has been our best new signing. I think he's been unbelievable. 𝗀𝗂𝗋 obviously didn't play against Huddersfield, but when he's been on, he's electric, and Gildart's playing out of his skin, and he's admitted he needed to. And same as Hickle, lost a bit of pace, hasn't he? But what he hasn't lost is that step. His tackling's outstanding, and really impressed with the outside backs. And you can throw Broadbent and Morgan into the mix. But they set the platform for Rovers, get us on the front foot. Mikey and Tyrone do the magic, and then the pack are just absolutely dominant. And again, Jesse, Jared, 𝗂𝗡𝗄𝗋. I thought 𝗂𝗡𝗄𝗋 had a bit of a stinker in the first half, but got better as time goes on. And Minchella's growing into his captaincy again, isn't he? So no complaints from me. Easy win for the Robins, and now we look forward.
Steve, we're going to bring you in for Robins Revisited right now. Steve, welcome to this week's Robin Pod as well. Of course, it's always a pleasure. Each week now you feature games from years gone by where our next opponent's featured. Of course, I'm interested as ever to hear what games you've got for us this week.
Which one do you think I'm going to go back to?
Oh, well, could it be the 86 round one game? Could it be the 1980 Challenge Cup final? Where could it be? You tell us, Steve.
Well, I had considered the 80 Cup final, but they can't take that away from us, can they? You know, we were the first to win it at Wembley with them as the opposition. So, no, I'm going to go back to 86. Now, if you remember, back in 85, Hull played in a final against Wigan. Many people consider it the best final ever. So they came to Craven Park on the 8th of February 1986, next cup tie that they played, and they thought they were going to win it. It was, the day itself was terrible. There was snow and the pitch had to be cleared. At 11 o'clock, you wouldn't have thought a game would be able to be played on it, but all the fans, both Hull and Rovers to be fair, all contributed and cleared the pitch because the game was on grandstand and they were showing the whole game live. So they were desperate to get the game on. So there was 4 or 5 inches of snow that needed to be cleared off the pitch. And of course it was going to be, underfoot conditions were going to be slippery. Rovers had fitness tests for Gary Clark, Phil Hogan Gavin Miller. In fact, Gavin Miller had a strapping on his thigh that day, blue strapping, and I just wonder if it was the same thigh later on that year that was causing him bother at Wembley. But anyway, it was noticeable. The match, it swung both ways early. Rovers got a penalty. John Doherty kicked a goal after about 5 minutes, and then it was the kind of game where you're trying to play open football, but the conditions wouldn't allow it. So what Rovers resorted to in the end, and correctly so, was a bit similar to how we play now. We tried to strangle them out of the game. Our defence was magnificent. I don't know, you won't be old enough, you two, to remember the game live. But referee Robin Whitfield, he penalised Rovers 11-4 in the first half. And 3 of the Hull penalties were within kicking distance. Lee Crooks missed 2, passed the ball to Steve Evans for the 3rd, and he missed that as well. So Rovers were 2-0 up. There was about, 5 minutes to half time, and the ball was swung out to Gary Clark, who went about 30 metres. Campbell attempted to tackle him, missed him, but went back for him. And it looked like Gary Clark was going to score in the corner. And in fact, he almost lifted the ball in a double movement to score. But he held the ball back. Now, if I remember rightly, his elbow went into touch, but the touch judge was stood there and he never gave it. So he played the ball. The ball was swung out to Gavin Miller. That quick body swerve of Miller's, that step, and he was under the post for Doherty to convert. And so Rovers went into the dressing rooms 8-0 up at half time. And it had been a thrilling match really for the fans. Compare it back to 1980. The neutrals in 1980 didn't enjoy the match. We enjoyed it because it was tight and it was nerve-wracking, and Rovers won. But this game was entertaining. The ball was being swung around. There was thick mud. Everybody was caked. Knocker Norton was trying his best for Hull, as was Lee Crooks. They were Hull's best 2 players. But what Hull suffered from was Fred O'Coy. He got injured early on, and Hull only had 2 forwards on the bench, and they brought 𝗬𝗂𝗧 on to play scrum half up against Paul Harkin. Well, it was no contest. Anyway, so it's 8-0 at half time. And 5 minutes after half time, another Doherty penalty, and it's 10-0. And then another 5 minutes passed when Harkin and Doherty created a break which saw Kelly crossing under the post, but not until after Proctor had knocked the ball. The pass from Doherty to Kelly, Proctor had half caught it but knocked it back, and Kelly had presence of mind to carry on, pick it up and go over under the post, and that gave Rovers a 16-0 lead. The thought that it clinched it Rovers when we had 2 tries disallowed, both from Lowes and Doherty, but on both occasions referee Whitfield had decided there were forward passes. So it was still 16-0 until about 5 minutes from the end, and we had a scrum heel, and Gary Prum and Fairbairn combined to put Mike Smith over under the post. Doherty converted again, 22-0, and there was only about 8 minutes to go, and 3 minutes later Hull got their try, which they deserved. Norton and 𝗬𝗂𝗧 put Dane O'Hara over. Crooks converted, and it ended 22-6 with John Doherty, Joe Cole getting the man of the match, and Rovers winning, and Rovers eventually going on to Wembley. So let's hope we can get something like that as a repeat on Saturday.
Steve, you're still there before we sign off on Robins Revisited. You never get bored of a derby game, do you?
No, we don't. It's the tension, isn't it? You know, you can. Do you remember the day when? I'm going back again. Another whole game where we were well in front, and it was a game that kept a certain coach Lee Radford his job.
No, Steve, I don't want to be reminded of that.
I know we don't want to be reminded, but it just shows
game.
how they can swing both ways. To be honest, I'm as confident as I've ever been about this coming Saturday. I really am. Any Hull team or any team that has Brad Fash in it, if we can't beat a team that's got Brad Fash in it, then we've got something wrong with us, certainly. And if they think bringing a guy 13,000 miles arriving on the Wednesday and they're wanting to put him in a derby 3 days later and hope he's gonna do something, well, I'm sorry, they're in 𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗴𝗏 land. No, I'll stand by this. I'm pretty confident that Rovers will win quite comfortably.
Steve, thanks for that, mate. I look forward to joining you next week for Robins Revisited. So we'll speak very soon.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks,
cheers,
lad.
Steve. Ta-ra, pal.
Cheers.
Chris, do you know what's crazy? When Steve was talking, then I was doing a bit of research. Mate,
whoa. I don't know what was crazy. Steve talking and you were doing a bit of research.
It's all in here, isn't it? Rovers played 11 times in April before the Challenge Cup final in 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏. That is ridiculous. Yeah. They was playing Sunday, Tuesday, Friday.
I know. Well, mate, when Steve and when we've had former players on in the Heritage podcast, and honestly, you can't believe
different world, isn't it?
And that was at a time as well when most of them had jobs as well, so they weren't even just doing rugby. Yeah,
it is baffling. 3rd of April, 6th, 9th, 11th, 13th, 15th, 16th. They played the Tuesday and the Wednesday. Played Leeds at home on the Tuesday the 15th, Salford at home on Wednesday the 16th, and then Oldham at home Friday the 18th.
Well, mate, that would have been tough enough just for supporters, let alone the blokes who actually going and playing the game.
Hell, imagine them now, Craven Street. They'd be absolutely minted. Forget Vegas. Everyone would want to play at Craven Park.
Yeah, no, great memory there from Steve. And, of course, he avoided the obvious 1981. So let's go on to the derby game. You know, it is a big game, isn't it? It's the Challenge Cup quarter final. For the Robins, it's another game where it gives an opportunity to get into the semi-final of the Cup, as it does our opposition. And for them, let's not forget, on the back of such a poor season last year, the fact that they've got an opportunity to potentially, you know, if they beat Rovers on Saturday, semi-final and final, you know, it opens up massively. So it is a big game. Ahead of the Good Friday game, I was quite relaxed about the derby. I thought, you know what, I'm quite comfortable about that game. I think we'll put them to the sword. This one, of course, has lots of trepidation because it is do or die in terms of who wins. You know, it's win or bust, isn't it? There's no... But I do look at the Robins and I am a bit like Steve, quite confident of what might happen. But, Joe, we can't deny the fact that the opposition we're coming up against is a much stronger proposition than it was last season.
Mate, I totally agree. And look, it's all I've spoke about for the last week. You do it at work, you do it with your mates. I hate them more than anything, but I can appreciate they are better than last season. They have got better players, but I also see faults where we can really capitalise. I'm not taking anything away from that Wigan away victory. Outstanding, but you can flip it on the head. And Field went off and Kieran played with an MCL. The teams that they've beaten, Catalan away, first game of the season, anything can happen. Look at us against Castleford, and Catalan aren't that good this season. When they played Wakey and Cass, I mean, Wakefield, who'd beat Warrington the week before and played like Penrith, ended up playing like part-time players, didn't they, the week after? Castleford are appalling and so slow. And Lee ended up, at a 𝗂𝗂𝗏𝗏 throwing out of his backside 10 metres from his own line every time he got the ball. I'm not saying they're rubbish, because they're not. But like Steve said, if we play to our capabilities and the way we can strangle teams and the way we can poke holes through their defence, they have got arguably the best prop in the league in Herman SASA. When him and Asiata go off, this is a different team. They rely so much on them too. If I was Willie Peters, first 20 minutes, every chance you get, Minchella, Hadley, our middles, Davis and Burgess on the wings, get at Asiata, get at SASA, get them off, and their game plan goes to pot. You know what Caesar's going to do with his crossfield kicks? He's very direct. They love to play out the back. On that shift, they always try and get it to Lewis Martin, so always watch out for that long ball. And obviously, if Will Price does play, which we assume that he will do, he's going to be jet-lagged. He's good in attack. He's got that flair. He's got that pace. But if he defends the same as if he was when last time he was over here, absolutely target him, because they're making out as if they signed Nathan Cleary. And don't get me wrong, he might be a good signing in the future, but this is a bloke who struggled to get in Huddersfield's team and played 5 games in a year and a bit in the NRL. But yeah, look, it's the derby, it's the Challenge Cup. Of course, I'm nervous, absolutely nervous, but I do think Rovers will just prove me wrong again, where I go into it thinking it could be tight, and hopefully we'll run away with it. And when I say bully teams, please bully them, shut their fans up, because yeah, we can't stand them, can we, Chris? It's one of them. Yeah, it's the old cliche, and it splits families, blah blah blah. We know what it means to this city of Hull, and we'll go into it favourites. I think we've got a -12 on the handicap. But yeah, they'll come out firing. Hopefully 20,000 people in the MKM Stadium, and it's going to be absolutely bouncing. And just what I spoke about earlier, though, with that coping under pressure, I do believe we will see it as a game which we know the magnitude of it. We know the fact that we're 2 wins away from Wembley. First time since 85, 86 playing them in the Cup, but we will treat it as we're just going into it like it's an app, just one of them games where we go in, do the job, let's get to the semi-final, and we can move on, and we'll play them in Good Friday as well. But yeah, let's absolutely smash them, because I hate them more than anything, Chris, and I'll end that on you.
Well, if you look at this, I mean, to be fair, it is Willie Peters made a reference to it, didn't he? It's first v second in terms of Super League sides. Rovers, obviously top of Super League at the moment, 1-6, lost none, drawn none. FC won 4, lost 1, drew 1. You look at the points, I think that's the really telling point for me in terms of the point difference. Points for Rovers 175, FC 101. Points against 48 for Rovers, 108 for FC. Massive points difference. And look, if you start picking all those performances like you've already done, Joe, you can see weaknesses there. Don't get me wrong, you can see weaknesses in the Robins, but they then backed it up with either getting over the line, or then that second half performance where they come and put points on the board right at the end, which is, I think, a game plan. It's not an accident. I think it's part of the game plan. And look at them play. I mean, do you know what? It's really funny because I see Jono Appleyard, because he trains where my lad plays rugby. I do not know how a professional sportsman is able to get around the pitch like he does, because he can hardly walk. It's funny how you see him. But what I would say is he's such a unit. Difference with someone like Asiata is he's got the ball in hand, hasn't he? He can play. He's a big bloke, but he can play. And I suppose the danger is for us, Joe, we could blow too much smoke up their arse and make an argument for them to say how good they are. I think you did a good job there of summarising how actually they've got good players, or a few good players, but actually when you chip away from them, they're not that great. But you can't deny Caesar. He's been an absolutely fantastic. I mean, I look at him, he's second the Super League for 8 assists with 8. He's had the third most attacking kicks, 34. I mean, Lewis is on the same number as him. Do you think it boils down to, if you restrict Caesar to playing, that's them done?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I think what you do against Hull is when Wakey and Cass give them 20 minutes of, not on the magnitude of what we did against St Helens in the first 20 minutes, but that aggressiveness where Wakey and Cass were all over them. They didn't know what to do. What they didn't do is capitalise on that, and then they do the usual, give it to Herman SAS 5 times on the line, and eventually he'll crash over. I think what will happen, Chris, is, look, that first 15, 20 minutes, they're going to go for it. They're going to throw out their ass. They're going to put big hits on, They're going to put hits on Jared and Jesse, and they're going to be buzzing and think they've won it. But what we can do is, let's just relax. Let them throw it at us. They might make a few metres on a shift play. They might miss out a man and he might make 15 metres. But then 20 minutes down the line, when their subs come off and when we're still fit and when we can do that for 80 minutes. They're in spells. And that's the same as every Super League team. I'm not just targeting Hull here. Huddersfield had a good 5-10 minutes. They're blowing out their ass. Saints, they kept up with us for 20 minutes. And then they went off the boil a bit, didn't they, after Sirenan scored. We're a very fit team and we don't let up. And I think people like Whitbread off the bench, Mini starting and playing big minutes. Dean Adley's going to take a lot of flack, but he loves doing it, doesn't he? Just weather the storm, if you want to call it that. You know, Caesar, every time he goes on that shift play, he'll try and find Briscoe, he'll try and find Martin, and if they get close to our line, they'll try and do a crossfield kick because that's the way they like to play. And when SAS is near the line, we cannot afford to do what every other Super League team does and pretends that they're under eights and goes, shirt grab him, get into him, tire him and Asiata out. They're their key. Without them, they haven't got a platform because then they'll have to let Laney have a carry or Fash or Ashworth, who they don't like doing it, do they? So, yeah, get into them, bully them from the start and, you know, let's show them that, yeah, they might be second, but it's 6 rounds in and there's a long, long way to go. And we've got them twice in 14 days, haven't we? Which is brilliant if you come away with the results.
It's a big week, Joe. I mean, well, not a big week, a big couple of weeks. We've got obviously FC in the quarter-final, then we've got Wigan at home, and then we've got Good Friday game. So it is a big run of games in terms of just the magnitude of games, not necessarily the importance of them, but the magnitude of them. The quarter-final game, of course, is a big one. Really interesting is that when you look at the Super League table, FC are 4th in terms of errors, 52. What I didn't expect was Rovers to be 5th with 53. So the errors that they're coming up with. But
again, though, sorry, really quick, Chris, we're hammering teams.
That's the caveat to that, isn't it?
Imagine when our completion rate's back up to what it was back in the year.
Yeah, I tell you what, Joe, that's one thing that I've been surprised with is the Rovers completion rate. And
yeah, it's not been amazing, has it?
Yeah, no, honestly, mate, and don't get me wrong, the Super League website where I get the information from isn't always the best because I've had Rovers at 108% completion rate, which is humanly impossible.
Wearing kits from 2010.
Yeah, Rovers have been around the 78, 80 plus. I think 80 plus completion rate has been the highest. So, I think you just said, Joe, a lot alluded to. There's lots more to come from this side. Yeah, which is great because when you look at the results we've had so far, whether the Storm early games against Castleford-Wakefield, weren't pretty, weren't amazing, got the job done. Some games then we've then actually put teams to the bed because the game plan's then been working. Lots of stuff to still work on. No matter how you analyse this game, though, Joe, the final sentence is, but it's the cup.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And that's the bit in it.
Yeah. I think Rovers will win. I think we've got the capability again to absolutely put a similar to score onto like what we did against Lee or a Salford, but they are up for it. This is their best chance to beat us probably under the Willie Peters era. So since 2023, they've got a bit of an hard on at the minute, aren't they? Thinking that they're going to be second come round 26, round 27. And yeah, they've been good, but you know what? Let's show them that you've got levels to be up there with teams like the Robins. But yeah, it's the cup, mate. Anything can happen, but I'm going in confident. Look, I've backed this team every week so far, and I'll do it again. We know what they're going to do, but at the end of the day, this team, I just think will have that mental capability to go, yeah, we know how big this is, but we've got 80 minutes of rugby. Let's go out there, do a job, shut them up, and we're back at it, and then we'll focus on Wigan the week after. Treat it as any other game, but let's be honest, we won't do, because that's why this rivalry is the best in the world, because you try not to let it take over your life. But God, my group chat, I've never had so many notifications.
Yeah, and that's why it's unique. Before we talk about the Rovers squad news, very quickly, they have got a wild card factor, haven't they? There is a wild card in the squad where you can't put you've not seen what could happen. Willie Peters talked about, obviously, Will Price coming in and it could work. He also talked about how it might go against them, which is why Artem Org didn't necessarily come instantly into the Rovers side upon signing him, about bedding him in. It is a wild card, isn't it? It's like, who knows what could happen from putting him in that side.
Yeah, it's interesting. Look, I said, obviously, earlier, didn't I? There's no doubt he's got pace and he's got that step. But this is a bloke who struggled to get in Huddersfield's team at the back end of his tenure at the John Smiths, and then was only limited to a few appearances in the NRL. I'm not going in and saying he's the worst player now, because he's not. But look, they're putting a lot of expectation on him. He's got a bit of cockiness about him. He's very similar to Mikey, and he loves to back himself and show how good he is and wants the world to know. So yeah, if he is playing, which I'm sure he will do, mate, I'd be very, very surprised if he didn't start on Saturday. He's going to get tired. Down the track, he'll get better, and he's a long-term signing for them. But here and now in that round, his first game of the season, say, at first grade rugby. I know he's played a few New South Wales Cup games. But yeah, let's get it in, because the tiredness will kick in. I think he landed in the country yesterday, didn't he? Trained today with them on Thursday. He'll do team run tomorrow, and then obviously in for an early kick-off on Saturday. So yeah, he's going to try that step. He won't know many combinations. Caesar will be running it. They'll just look for price for that extra runner, because I don't think Rapana offers much out the back, which I'm sure he'll play full back. So yeah, I think we'll have done our homework on him, and obviously a lot of the players, most of them know him anyhow from his time in the Super League with Huddersfield. But I think he'll be good for him down the line, and I think that's what they needed, a bit of pace and attack. But yeah, putting big raps on him and making out as if the saviour has come to West Hull. So let's welcome him to the Hull derby.
Well, let's talk about the Rovers then, Joe. Joe Appleyard missing because injured against Huddersfield, came off. We're fortunate the squad depth is what it is, but there's no doubt that Appleyard is a big miss, and he's a player who's someone you can just rely on. He just comes up with the goods, doesn't he, when you need him to?
He just cleans up, doesn't he? He's not a flashy player, mate, but he's an 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗏 player. He's like a Dean Adley, not to Dino's extent, because I don't think anyone's on his level. That bloke's a freak. But we're really going to miss him. Hopefully, by the sounds of it, it doesn't seem severe, and he could even be in contention to play against Wigan next week. But yeah, for me, we'll talk about team news. Quite obvious for me. 𝗂𝗃𝗏𝗃 starts with Dean Adley in the back row, and Jack Brown comes onto the bench. I'd be very surprised if that wasn't the team, with obviously Broadbent full back and Budgie back on the wing. But look, he's going to be a miss. Same as Reece Martin. We've got our 2 starting back rowers out now, but we've got depth for a reason, and teams get injured all the time. We can't be complaining, and we can't be using it as an excuse. We've got a very capable player in 𝗂𝗃𝗏𝗃 Taanganoa, a very different type of player, and it'll be interesting to see how they use him, because I do think sometimes if he plays 80 minutes, he's not as effective, but we'll see. He loves a try against FC as well. He scored 2 last year, didn't he, against them lot? So we'll see. But yeah, it'll be interesting for Brownie as well. I'd imagine he'll play. Obviously, there's no confirmation or anything on a Thursday night, but he's the next cab off the rank, and I think it'll be Jez, Jar Whitbread, Luckley, and Jack Brown, who of course played in the derby for both teams last year. And it'll be another proud moment for his family, who are big Robins. And if he does get the chance, which I'm sure he will, he'll want to grab it with both hands, because he's been limited to only a game this season, and after captaining the team in that friendly in Amsterdam, so he's got a point to prove. And I think on the flip side of that, him and Jez might work well together, because Brownie loves an offload similar to Luckley, loves to win the floor. So maybe they'll work with him and Jez, bringing him on at the same time, try and set a platform after the big lads have done the damage to their props.
Any chance you could see Doro there? Because we saw his explosive.
Yeah.
How didn't we against Oldham, and his ability to, really just make things happen. But you reckon tried and tested Brown? Do you think he's a Willie Peters? Do you know what this is? A daft step, but a Willie Peters player, like in terms of he's followed the mantra, he's trained the way he wants. Like you said, he was captain against York. He's been given responsibility, and do you reckon this is where Peters puts him on the stage to go, show me what you can do?
1,000,000%. Look, I've got really big hopes for Doro, and I think he can be a big part of what this club does moving forward. Very inexperienced at this level, and I just think it could be one of them. I'm not saying if Doro played, we'd automatically lose because he'd lose his head or blah, 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 but to throw a kid into him for his proper debut, he came on in the back end against Oldham, and when we was 13-0 up, but bringing him in front of 20-odd thousand at the MKM in a Challenge Cup quarter-final might be maybe not ready to yet. Whereas it's a risk, it could pay off. But with Brownie, you know what you're getting, a bit more solid, a bit more, just get his job done. Knows the derby like the back of his hand. Played for Hull, knows a lot of their players. looks a lot more trimmer, a lot more Willie Peters-esque, doesn't he? You just alluded to it then. So, yeah, I'd be very, very surprised if it wasn't Jack Brown. But Doro, for me, will get game time this minute, especially down the track. If we do progress and when we do progress to the latter stages of the Cup, when he might fill in if we've got a few niggles. But, yeah, for me, mate, got to be Brownie. And him and Luckley will do a big, big job. They've got to, because Jai's going to do it and Jez, but for them to, they've got to come on and keep that impact going as well, because we can't drop, not for 80 minutes.
Yeah, and I tell you what, let's move on, Joe. So, massive game. I tell you what, it's funny, isn't it? We used to talk about the derby and game, and I'm saying let's move on, as if it's like... but I do feel it's a bit like that now. It's different. It's a different mindset. I'm so calm and relaxed about this game. Since over the last few years. Don't get me wrong. On match day, my guts will be churning and my heart will be beating. But my mindset's totally different about these games now. I'm just quite relaxed, just of where we are. I think the Robins are like a machine. But let's move on to we heard. Willie Peters talking about Tyrone Mate and the future he's got with the Robins. It's quite open in terms of saying that Tyrone Mate wants to play with his brothers. What Tyrone Mate wants and what clubs might want is a totally different thing. But it's interesting to see that it's out there that May probably won't be a Rovers player. I don't know. Probably won't be a Rovers player next year. It's hard to read into it, but it looked like Willie Peters might, because what the Robins have been really good at is the transfer business, sorting things out early, getting the business done, and they won't be waiting for May to tell the Robins what he wants to do. The Robins will be telling him, you either tell us or this is what we're doing.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I don't want him to go, because we've already spoke about his continuity with Mikey, but I think it seems like the general consensus was he was doing 2 years. Mickey Mack came over for 1 year to kind of play with his best mate one more time. Terrell's at West Tigers. There's talks of Taylor going there after his band's up. And obviously, West Tigers have got Lockie Galvin and Joanne Luai as their halfbacks. But could he go in and would just want to play second string and play in the New South Wales Cup, but play with his brothers, or go and be a third choice halfback over in the NRL? He's obviously got a partner and a young child as well, so you've got to factor in that. I never know sometimes why they don't come over with them as well, but that's not for us to ask. But yeah, it looks like he's going. But what I will say is they've got to do the business early. I mean, you look at some of the halfbacks in the NRL and the 5/8s, whatever you want to call them, or off contract. There's not loads and loads. I mean, the standouts are obviously your Jake Cliffords, but he's doing really well for the Cowboys, so you can't imagine him not being short of suitors. Maybe the Cowboys will re-sign him. Because Chad Townsend's struggling a little bit. I think him and Tom Dayden will probably be the long term for the Cowboys. But then you go in a Cherry Evans, who is never going to come over to Super League at 37 when every other club wants him, especially Manly. They're dying to keep
him. Days, Joe, nobody thought Warren Hargreaves would come over, and he had a mate who just put a word in his ear, and all of a sudden it happens. So
yeah, it does. I mean, obviously there's a few names in there. You're looking like at Tia Marie Martin, Kieran Foran, a one who I think could happen, and I'm not saying I've heard anything, but is it not written in the stars that a certain player who came over for a few games in 2023 they were doing quite well for Penrith and he's off contract? Who, Brad Schneider, is that a name that might come back in? Him and Mikey have played.
What a great try, didn't he? In
the defeat, didn't he? A nice little show and go against the Roosters. Zach Docker-Clay playing 9 for the Roosters as well, which I can never get my head around, because he couldn't get in our team in the Championship, and now he's playing 9 for Sydney Roosters. But yeah, look, if that is the case, we're going to have to do business soon, because in British halfbacks, nobody. I mean, there's probably Lewis Dodd who's coming back from Australia because he can't get in over there. But for me, I wouldn't want someone like that. Perfect world, mate. I'd like a Schneider or a Jake Clifford that can control this team, and Mikey can do the rest. But I'd love to see Tyrone stay, but I just can't see it.
Hey, is it beyond the realms of possibility that we could see the May brothers at the Robins?
So, well, yeah, Taylor put a photo on, didn't he, yesterday? Or he's changed his name today. They're off their head out of them brothers, like. But yeah, he's Batman, as he likes to be called, put a photo on playing a video game with his Rovers shirt on yesterday. So maybe that's a hint. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see him all over, mate. But especially, Taylor and Terrell. I think Terrell's an unreal prop.
It's a story that's going to gather pace all the time, isn't it? Because obviously the rush to see who the halfbacks for next season are, who they are. People are interested. So anyway, there's a lot of time between now and the end of the season to go between. Like I said, I just think for the Robins, they don't hang around now. They don't.
My old Jono Ed says, because the club and obviously the Journos are quite cosy. I do think like when there's a big game week, if there was news on Tyrone's 100% going, or they've been linked, or they're buying someone, there has been times where you can go, look, can you just leave it until after the derby or something like that, because we want to focus on that. So you never know, it could happen. I don't know anything anymore. I'm not in the loop, but all I'm saying is you never know, do you? There's always an article on a Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. where you go, bloody hell, look at that. So I imagine down the track Rovers are going to be in for an halfback, because I like Danny Richardson, I do, but for where we're at, he's not a starting halfback for us.
Right, question time then, Joe. I'm going to bring it in.
Go on then, let's finish with these bangers.
Right, Joe, Goldie on X, she says, seeing that Wigan used our bringing the boombox to their ground as motivation to defeat us last season. Of course, if anyone's seen the Wigan documentary on Sky Sports, they'll see Michael Lewis walking in with his boombox. Do you think we should tone that down? And will Willie Peters be wearing a white shirt on Saturday? Two questions there. Let's go to the boombox. It was interesting that, wasn't it, on the documentary about what they did and then how Wigan responded to that.
Yeah, they didn't do it against any other team, did they? So look, it's the rugby players. They're like the little routines, don't they? It's a boombox. It's not the end of the world. If they want to do that and they want to walk in blasting music, do the business on the pitch as well. So
I'll tell you what though, Joe, if you go back to when you played at whatever level, kid, rover, if someone walks in with a boombox, booming your changing room, what would that make you feel like?
Yeah, you think, oh, well, look at these. You do 100%. But yeah, I'd say Rovers carry on doing it, rattle some more feathers, and Willie keep that white shirt on, because it seems to be working a wonder, doesn't it? And it looks a bit smarter than that jacket.
I'm surprised people haven't picked up on that more. And it's not just a white shirt; it's the big collar.
It's
not Elvis style with a collar.
Going 80s Aussie style, isn't he? Bringing the old retro AFL back.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, mate, he can wear whatever he wants as long as he keeps winning.
Yeah.
He can wear a bin bag for me. Anyway, right. Bazza Kingston, who was on the podcast previously, first time. He's going to come back on the Robin Pod, so it'd be great to have him in his luxury lorry. So it looks like Price is going to start for FC on the Saturday. Question is, do you see Price as a weak link? For me, all the FC fans are spaffing their kegs. I should have read this before I read it out. Over Price, he didn't light up in the NRL and wasn't that great at Huddersfield. I think Caesar and Price are the two weak links for me, because Caesar losing his head too much, screaming for penalties. For me, Caesar's not a problem. I think he looks quite assured in that position. We've talked about Price.
Defensively, mate, target him. He's never been a good defender anyhow, and he'll be jet-lagged. Caesar the same. Target them both, get on the outside, especially 𝗂𝗡𝗄𝗄 on the bump, and we'll be sound.
Yeah, what you'd say is, in attack, he could come up with any miracle play. What you'd say is he's got no defensive play whatsoever, because you've got no idea how they link up, where he fits into that line defence. So, who knows? Well, I think we've already answered this. Would you play Doro, Brown, Stan Wilson? Me personally, I'd see Brown have a run out. I think, Joe, you said, of course, I'd like to see him. And that is all the questions in question time. I thought there'd be more, but I think it's shows me probably how people are maybe quite relaxed.
Yeah, and I think everyone's just probably focused. There's not really much to discuss, is there? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of just like get on with the game. So
Joe, just finish on that then. This Robin side is like a machine. You know what they're going to do. And we are all hoping, look, it's a derby. It's going to be massive. There's 3,500 fans going to the NKM Stadium, to Hull City Stadium to watch the Robins. They're on about 1,500 at the Craven Street watching that, let alone all the people then watching on TV. It's going to be a fantastic occasion. Let alone our rivalry and what it means to us. It's great to. I was listening to Talk Sport by chance this afternoon, and bloody Elliot Minchella popped up on national radio, and I'm like, yeah, this is what we need to sell the game. Let's just hope it is a fantastic occasion. Ultimately, I couldn't care less though, as long as Rovers win.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you want to batter them, don't you? Can't stand them. But yeah, great occasion. Let's get the job done. Let's get in the semi-final. And let's show them who the big dogs are. To say what you called me at the beginning. Yeah, let's show who the top dogs are in this city.
Singing a song when the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing when the red